What is up, Maniacs? It is November 14th, 2023. This is Sound and Pound. I'm your host, Drake Riggs, alongside the other host, Alex Behunin, here to bring you all the craziness in the world of mixed martial arts. Always a lot going on, a lot to talk about from last week. Pretty decent amount to talk about this coming week, and kind of a new variety that we've gotten in the first so many episodes here so far. But Alex, happy Tuesday, my friend. Just how we feeling on this one, episode 6 here?
Happy Tuesday. Yeah, feeling good. It was a pretty good pay-per-view. Back at the good old Apex this week. So,
It's the cycle. It's the cycle of things. So,
going from Madison Square Garden back to the Apex.
Oh, yes. Gonna milk it for as long as we can. But yeah, lots to get into, of course. Definitely delivered in some ways. Plenty of talking points. And you guys, we will also, I got to mention right off the top here, of course, we will have a special guest joining us in the middle of the show. Should we surprise him, Alex, or give him a teaser here?
I think tease him a little bit.
All right. So we got a champions manager, UFC champions manager, going to give us an update on one of their fighters. And, not the champion, but of course we'll talk about the champ a little bit as well. So stay tuned for that in the middle of the show. But other than that, it'll be your usual programming here with our topics and good stuff coming there. But all right, with that in mind, I mean, let's just break right on into it, Alex. Get to our maniacal moment of the week. A lot to choose from. A lot of things happened. UFC 295. What exactly was your big standout, your big, most maniacal moment that we got here to kick off the show today?
I mean, obviously, we got to talk about the two title fights, but I also wanted to highlight about Mackenzie Dern, and I think it's time we have to come to the realization that maybe she's not going to be a champion, and maybe
we need to come to that realization now.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of I don't know, she looks so good against Angela Hill, and I was like, maybe she broke through, and maybe she can kind of get through. And after losing to Jessica Andrade, which in hindsight, Jessica is a former champion, lost to only but killers. So I think I had so much riding on Mackenzie Dern, but after that performance, she's not getting better. She's not evolving at all. I think it's time to think she's probably going to be a strawweight gatekeeper, unfortunately.
I think that with Mackenzie, yes, kind of we've seen that, but at the same time, I do want to give her some brief leeway because she's gone through a whole lot of team changes and shit regarding coaches and whatnot, which maybe some her fault, some I'll just factors, whatever. But that has happened a lot. But at the same time, and also I do want to say I think that offensively she wasn't quite looking as bad as commentary was making her seem. Like I thought her jab was working pretty good in some of those shots, but of course defensively was different, different ball game. It was a little rough there, but I think that she did slightly better than maybe people are giving her credit for. That doesn't say a whole lot, but I just have to throw out any little bit I can there. But I do agree with you for the most part, for sure. So, yeah, I think that's a good one to highlight. And before I talk about my maniacal moment as well, of course, you guys, if you are watching on Twitter, head over to YouTube if you want to comment, interact, because Twitter with StreamYard, they just don't go along together, aside from showing the stream, which is important and good. But if you want to get your comments seen and hear from us and whatnot, go on over to the big YT. Like Curtis Calhoun here. What's up? How you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, we are doing fantastic on this Tuesday. Curtis, thanks for tuning in. Combat Sports Today. We will get to that question at the end of the show. That's a good one, though. Appreciate that. Of course, guys, getting your questions, too, for the end of the show Q&A. But all right. So for mine, Alex, I feel like I just could not. I never like to. We have these segments for a reason. We have underrated moment coming up next. So that's where I'll put the things that I always want to put here, because I like to highlight the things that aren't obvious. But I got to go with Tommy Aspinall. I mean, the way that fight played out, for being as short as it was, it had that tension and feel of it felt like it was a 2-round fight. It felt longer than it was for me in that moment, because when you have those guys who any shot can land, more so from Sergey was our thought in this one, right? And he did connect with that one that was like, oh, I had to readjust the mouthpiece there, and Tom talked about that afterward. Instead, he's the one that lands, puts Sergey away in 69 seconds. Ridiculous. And especially afterwards with the stuff he was telling us about his back preventing him from training, like the guy goes in there even more off the couch than we kind of expected. He's just everything I think that people were kind of thinking he would be, and I'm always kind of slow to hop on those bandwagons, right? I remember you telling you about Dawkins there, and I'm going to point that one out every chance I can. It took me a little bit. I don't remember. I think it was maybe around the Arlovsky fight, just because the fact that he submitted Arlovsky was like, all right, I think, this guy is probably going to be champion one day. I felt confident saying it. I never liked to jump to that one, but then just he continued to impress after that. Here we are now. He's really fucking good. He's really fucking good. The guy can do everything. And it brings up this point, Alex, which is where I want to converse about this co-main event here specifically, where I don't know if I even want to get into this, especially with you, but Tom Aspinall, I think I'm fine with either argument. I understand both sides, but we have that solid case now where you could say he's the best heavyweight in the UFC. I don't want to say he's the best heavyweight fighter in the UFC. Like, there's a lot of ways you can kind of dissect this. I still don't think he's better than Francis, but then I like his point of saying active fighter. Francis hasn't fought since January 2022. The case is there. I want to fucking see Jones versus Aspinall. I don't give a shit about Stipe. Get that out of here. None of that. Who the hell wants to see that after what he just did? Like, take it away. What do you think?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I've been high on Tom Aspinall since his UFC debut. I watched him in Cage Warriors, like, or was it Bama? One of the two. This dude he's a real fucking deal. Everyone was on the Cyril Gahn hype train. I was on the Tom Aspinall one, and man, he's good, dude. He's good, and like, not only he's been knocking people out, but like, dude, like, he's barely showing his ground game,
Yeah.
which is terrifying for heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And like when he
doesn't
does,
just
it's
lay.
still very
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah. Like, he doesn't lay on people like Joustin Almeida, right? Like, he would go in there and mop Derek Lewis. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's
Yes.
just levels to it, right?
Yeah.
Now, yeah. I mean, there's an argument to be made that he's the best heavyweight in the UFC right now. Obviously Jon Jones is the champion right now, so it's like you can't really take that away from him.
Mm-hmm.
But people are saying, like, Jon hinted at retirement, and it would have been probably a perfect retirement to fight at Madison Square Garden in his home state.
Yeah.
Perfect hurrah. But now, if he's not going to fight in Madison Square Garden for his last fight, the guy is such an ultimate competitor that I would not be surprised if he sticks around and fights one of the upcoming heavyweights, just to say, like, fuck you. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
all right, like, you're doubting me. I'll show you what's up. And
that's why I hope the odds flip. I want Jon. If Jon sees the underdog line, that helps us a lot.
Like, 1000%. And it helps that the heavyweight title's only been defended 3 times, right?
Yes.
So he goes in there, defends against Stipe, fights Aspinall, and fights one more person. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's already tied. He's already there with the heavyweight goat with Stipe. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's so much. I feel like he's the ultimate competitor, that he'll stick around just to stick it to people. Like, I have this feeling that he's gonna do it. Or there's the other thing where, like, Jon is very smart. He's very smart with his career, and he's like, why would I risk my legacy going against these young killers, only for them to beat me, for them to overtake me? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the injury part too helps the case of like him wanting to prove stuff wrong, right? Like you're saying there, but also at the same time, I feel like at this point, Jon, especially at heavyweight, pretty fucking bulletproof. Like, I don't honestly, if he goes out there and loses to Tom, I don't think it really hurts him that much. Like, he won the title, he can say that he was the champ. Even if this was going to be like his debut, I still don't think so, because like, I feel like people don't realize, I mean, newer fans, obviously, the amount of time, the time that Jon Jones has had and done these things, as much as, I'm not a fan of the guy, I gotta be realistic and honest here. Like, I don't know. I really don't think it would affect him that much, especially he can always fall back on, and fans will do this for him too. But the fact that he's going to be like 37, by the time the fight would happen. So, like, I really don't think it would damage any legacy type stuff like that either. Will he think of it that way? I can't say. But from my perspective, like, I don't think
Yeah.
it would drop him too many notches at all.
Yeah, no.
So,
1000%. I think so. But we live in an age where new MMA fans think that you lose one fight and you're the worst fighter of all time, So
this is very true. Very true.
So we are dealing with that.
Yes. But Octagon updates with a good question here to tie in. We'll get those in when they are segment appropriate. I says, does Tom's belt mean as much as Jon's? I believe so, Alex, because of kind of two reasons here. And I think it's on par there because, and you look at who they beat, Cyril and Sergey, like, you can make the arguments for which one's a better win, especially timing wise. I probably slightly lean towards Sergey, ever so with a winning streak, all that stuff, everything he was doing. But then think about this. Just think about this part. Forget what I just said. Very strong chance Tom Aspinall defends the interim title before Jon Jones is back. Like that alone, if he defends the belt, then he's a defending champion. Doesn't matter. So I think if you can say it's more if you want, but I think it's definitely they're the same right now. It's just like having two belts.
Yeah, no, I think they're just about I would put Jon just a little bit higher just because he is the undisputed champion at the moment. But I mean, you make a good point of was Aspinall's win over Sergey better than Jon's win over Cyril?
Mm.
I mean, I don't. It's tough because Sergey looked like such a Terminator, but then again, Jon went in there and smoked Cyril Gone where no one had done that before, So like, it's tough, it's tough. And
performance wise, they're both, yeah,
it's like right up there against each other. But yeah, I mean, I understand why people are pissed off about Jon and Stipe, but I also understand why Jon wants that fight. Dana wants that fight. Like, it is a legacy fight, and I understand. Like, yeah, maybe he should get stripped, but like Jon's resume, his star power, just Jon Jones himself. I think he demands it. Like, yes, Jamal and Yuri vacated the titles after getting injured, but they're not even close. They're not even on the same status here as Jon Jones. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just they're just completely different cases. And I understand from a marketing aspect of the UFC, like, why take the title off of Jon Jones when he'll probably fight Stipe at International Fight Week in July. You know what I'm saying? So like, I get the argument. I get both arguments of like he should just be stripped, just do a legacy fight. But like, I think there's more stakes on it if Jon's champion.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they introduced the interim title kind of screws it all up in the first place. So
1,000%.
But as we've learned, the UFC is not much of not the greatest long-term storytellers or planners. So there's that. But we could go on and on about the heavyweight title, but I think we should definitely touch on the main event a little bit before we do move on to the underrated moment of the week. Man, I was just loving that fight while it lasted, Alex. I was so intrigued, so perplexed. It was going in some the directions I thought it would, and directions I didn't think it would, like, let's say, Yuri going for that takedown and, getting it there in the first round. But then we get a little bit of controversy. Seems to have died down, at least on the Twitters and whatnot, since fight night. But Alex Pereira gets it done. Officially a two-time, two-division UFC champion. Only, 7 fights? Some ridiculous shit. So there's that. My heart is broken for my man, Yuri. I know he'll be back. But I don't know. Just to talk about the ending, the stoppage, I would have ideally liked, maybe 3 more seconds, like just a couple, moments there, but when it happened, I wasn't like freaking out or anything. Um, so like it's not one it's kind of one I'm understanding of all angles here. I don't think it was the worst stoppage of all time. Definitely not, because Yuri was very clearly went down, and then kind of pulled guard to try and stay safe. Maybe you could argue, but um, I don't know. What did you think? Were you on the same side as me, or did you think it was a bad one? We've had time now to look back at it, multiple angles, all that good stuff.
So at the time, I was like, "That's a little early, for sure." And then more angles have started coming out, and I'm like, "All right, I understand why Mark Goddard dropped the fight." Me personally, if it's a UFC title fight,
Let him die.
let
Let him die.
let them fucking die. I'm all for fighter safety and athlete safety, but bro, like that title means way fucking more than some
Yeah,
brain damage. You know, like I
that's
mean,
true.
it's just let them go out. It's funny. Mark Otter is also the referee in the Alex Pereira versus Izzy fight, which
Oh
when Izzy
yeah.
won the title. So it's um, yeah. I'm fine with this. I'm fine with the stoppage. Yuri was fine with it, even though like what was Yuri gonna say? Like
Yeah.
this is fucking
He's
bullshit.
he's
Like
not that guy.
no. Um, so yeah, I'm fine with it, dude. I mean, what Alex Pereira has done in his brief UFC stint is just it's crazy, man. It really is. Like, especially coming from kickboxing, right? Like
Yes.
that's the big thing. Obviously, like a wrestler coming over, say if Bo
Seeing it.
Nickel does,
Yes.
if Bo Nickel comes over and does what Alex Pereira does, we're like, all right. I mean, he was an NCAA champion,
Right.
like we get it. But coming over from kickboxing with limited grappling, like it is, man, it is magical, and like now we have to put him up with like the best combat sport athletes of all time, right? Like you have to, like it's insane. And people argue like, oh well, he had an easy path because of Izzy. Duh. I mean, yeah,
So,
but like,
okay. He still
yeah,
won.
I mean, yeah, exactly, 1000%. He still has multiple wins over Izzy, and that's just how it rolls. Like it is what it is. I mean, if whoever beat Daniel Cormier in college were to come over to come over to the UFC,
Yeah.
he would have the same path. Like so, man, it's just impressive. It's just, man, I'm so impressed with Alex Pereira, man, or Alex. I like it, Alex.
Alex,
Alex, you know what I'm
Alex,
saying?
of
Alex,
course, of course. But no, yeah, you're totally right. Like, I think that it really, really, really goes to show how goddamn good of a striker he is. Right? Like we've seen these, takedown defense, grappling defense improvements bit by bit over time. You can highlight some of his earlier fights, what the Bruno one, where people were like, "Oh, I don't know if this guy is it," because sometimes those matchups just kind of happen. And then even against Yuri, like realistically, you would think Yuri shouldn't have been able to pick him up and take him down like that, just from what we know about Yuri. But in the end, the guy doesn't make those mistakes defensively, which is really important for his skill set, right? Like if he was kind of looking a lot more uncomfortable, I guess, and like desperate than he has been, like in that moment on the ground where he was in like half guard for the end of the first round. Um, Probably would have got submitted, because Yuri can obviously latch on things just in random scrambles. So he just plays it safe, plays it smart. Great fight IQ because he knew that was early on in the fight. Had plenty of time, doesn't have to get crazy. Knows his power will be there no matter what. So like, I think that's a massive part of the success that he's been having because technically I mean, he's all there and then some. So it's like, damn, yeah, you're gonna need somebody to get past, the hands there and then get a hold of him and be able to really methodically work, I guess. And that's why the Uncle Live matchup, I think, is pretty interesting to see just how he can handle that test at some point. Of course, we'll get to him later in the matchup roundup as there's some news there. But yeah, very, very impressive. I mean, the fact that it's still insane to think about because Alex, like, I knew this, but I wasn't thinking about it. But just last year, he won the other title of like 364 days ago. It was the day before. Like, yeah, it's a pretty wild story.
Yeah, insane. The
Very
first
good.
fighter to headline MSG twice. 3-0 at MSG. Like, man,
Yes.
what do you think of his call out of Izzy?
I'm not a fan of that. Not a big fan of that. Like, I get it, I guess, but no, I like, sure, I'm down to see them fight again at some point, but timing is terrible now. The timing has only gotten worse. Um, I don't know if we do see that at any point now, unless Dana's just like, yeah, whatever, go ahead, Adesanya, here you go. But no, I don't really have interest in that now with all the new fresh possibilities at light heavyweight. But I've seen some interesting comments out of Adesanya and Jamal Hill since then, so we'll see
Yeah.
how that all unfolds. But all right, with that in mind, we can move on along before our guest joins us here. It'll probably be about 10 minutes or so, you guys. So stay tuned for that. UFC Champions Manager giving us some other stuff and whatnot, along with just a little conversation chiming in. But time for the underrated moment of the week, Alex. So this was a very, very difficult one for me to pick, especially when we're looking at UFC 95 specifically. A lot to choose from. I'm very curious to know what you went with, and maybe we went with the same one here. But for me, I think, I mean, you can't really go wrong with some of these choices. But I wanted to give some love and highlight Jared Gordon, specifically, kind of because of what he had gone through in the last two fights. Getting very, very blatantly robbed against Paddy Pimblett, and then doing pretty all right against Bobby Green, but then getting knocked out via a head clash. And it's like a terrible stretch of luck in terms of the actual result for his last two fights. And then comes home to Madison Square Garden, right, and takes on a guy, Marco Madsen. Yes, he's older. He's got some wear and tear on him, great wrestler from back in the day, all that stuff. But gets the job done pretty violently, a great finish in the first round, like everything you could have asked for. And first time that Madsen has been put away with strikes. We've seen him kind of chinned up a little bit in some of his wins, and the loss against Grant Dawson there too. But just for Gordon to get a win like this, where he's not particularly a violent striking finisher. I mean, that was only his second finish by strikes since his debut. Like he just doesn't. These are typically not the performances that you get out of him. And I think after going through those things, to see it kind of pay off this way, I mean, it's a great feel-good moment, especially if you know Jared Gordon and followed his story, of course. Like, I mean, for you too, like to relate with him and all the stuff he's gone through. Like, that was one that I think I was very important that we give a little bit of love to, especially because he got a little bit buried on this card. So it's I think a good shout, and maybe I did steal yours the more I think about it.
No. That was good,
Okay.
man. No, he didn't. I was very happy for Jared. That's my guy. He got robbed of a 50K bonus.
That is true.
I mean, bro, you gave out 5 performance of the nights. Just give out 3 more. It's just like, God, dude,
Right.
like so dumb. But yeah, man, I mean, he had a shit year. He was not in a good place. And for him to go out there and starch Mark Madsen, how can you not feel good for him? It was just, he was, yeah, so awesome. I went with, I have 2, Brian Miner is probably the worst judge I've seen in fucking forever. Like, bro, what? How do you give Tabitha Ricci 327? Like,
That was
what?
pretty shocking.
Like,
That was very shocking.
dude was literally looking at her ass the entire fucking fight, like, and then you give Mackenzie Dern the first round. Like,
Oh, did he? I didn't see that.
yeah, he
That's
gave Mackenzie
interesting.
Dern, and then he did not give Nazim Sadikov a 10-8 in that second round.
Sheesh. Yeah,
Like,
rough
bro,
night.
what?
Oh boy. Better ref than judge, that's for sure. Jeez.
Dude, God, like, get the fuck out of here. That one, and then I wanted to give a Dana White, don't ask him stupid questions about the PFL. Oh man, boy, did he Dana has I feel like he's really calmed down the last few years. You could tell he was pissed off about that question. And funny enough, it was a very good question to ask. Like, like it's a
Bad
fair
presentation.
question, which I get, because I did the same thing when I asked him about the UFC 5 roster, and he kind of came back at me, and I wasn't like I wasn't prepared. I could have easily said, well, Ian Gary. Why isn't Ian and Gary in him? I said Sean
Well, that one
Brady.
was more
Adrian
understandable
Yanez,
for you to be caught off guard by, though, to be fair. But I'll leave it at that. I've already shared my piece on
yeah,
that.
no, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I think it was Daniel. Daniel did it, and like you could have, like there was several things you could have thrown back in his face, but to, like say like, oh well, ESPN partnership, like,
Yeah.
like, and then just like, and then you just
Yeah.
like, and then Daniel just like left you in red, like, it's just.
I
Yeah.
thought someone else was gonna chime in, honestly, but can't always be that way.
Once you've been in those press conferences. Once like it's very like you can feel the
Awkward,
tone in there,
yeah.
like awkward. Like you don't want to be like, oh, I'll get in there and give you a fucking. I'm gonna fucking tag in, like you just kind of have to let your fellow media person just eat the brunt of it
Take
and
it,
then kind
just
of.
take it.
So
Yeah, that was rough. But yeah, no, like even then it was a little bit calm, I think, coming back. But
yeah.
um real quick here, James asking about Josh Van's body shot clinic for underrated moment. Give some love to him. Right, Alex? I mean, he was your guy for our Spotlightville last week. So.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been watching. I mean, it's another reason for MMA fans to watch regional MMA and not just UFC because you would know how good Josh Fan is and how fun he is. It's Josh Fan, Steve Ersig, the guys that have busted their ass on the regional scene just to get to UFC this year. Like the flyweight division is fun, man. It's crazy that the UFC almost got rid of it.
Yes, absolutely is. So, on that note, then we will move along from the underrated moment of the week because our guest has arrived, you guys. So, we will let him on in now. It is MMA Manager extraordinaire, one of the best mustaches you'll ever goddamn see, Lance Spouty. How are
Thanks
you
for having me,
doing,
guys.
sir?
I'm good. I'm good. Just got back from the commission meeting, had a little detour, but yeah, just getting settled back from the commission meeting, and I'm happy. I mean, I don't know where you guys want to take this discussion, but I'm really pleased with what Nevada has decided to adopt and moving forward, how it's going to benefit all athletes, not just UFC athletes that come under Nevada's purview.
So Miles Johns gets temporarily suspended. Kind of talk
Yep.
about that and what he got suspended for and what the Nevada Commission kind of went with it.
Sure. So the best way for you guys to understand this is the backup because it's not a Miles Johns situation. This has happened to a number of athletes. Really, what has occurred is over the years, testing has gotten significantly better. It's so good now that the analogy that Dr. Eichner at Smyrtle gives people is if you had an Olympic-sized swimming pool and you filled it with golf balls, they can detect up to one golf ball in that swimming pool if the swimming pool was your entire body. It's just an absurd amount of capability of the testing now compared to 5, 10, 15 years ago. So in Miles' situation, which is very similar to the situation that Kyler Phillips was recently in, and that's really what started these discussions earlier in the year, another client of ours, but very, very similar where you have consistent negative tests over the span of months, 6 months, 8 months, negative test, negative test, negative test, negative test. These guys then cut weight, get ready to compete. They have a positive in competition test, but the threshold and the amount is so small that there's clearly no intent to take that amount or any actual performance benefit from that amount. And then subsequently after another negative test, right? So you have all these negative tests, a very, 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 very tiny positive test that shows no benefit to the athlete whatsoever. And then you have another negative test. But what we're seeing is as these guys cut weight, as they withdraw everything from their body, and then they replenish it, you're having these small amounts that could come up from anywhere, contamination, maybe a use 10 years ago that pops back up. really kind of circles all the way back to the Jon Jones situation with the whole picogram things. But what Nevada has decided to do, because previously they would say, nope, doesn't matter the amount. Don't care if it's tiny. Don't care if there's negative tests. We're going to punish you as if it was a complete positive test. So what they've done in conjunction with ongoing discussions with the UFC, with Dr. Eichner, who runs essentially like all the labs for, USADA and the Olympics and things like that, they've adopted a policy now, or they're in the process of doing it, in which those small positive tests are then investigated further. And unless there's other evidence showing like, hey, this guy actually was cheating, they treat it as an atypical finding and it's not an adverse effect to the athlete. So in Miles' situation, he falls exactly into this category. Like the amount was tiny, barely anything. But because it was under the old policy of the Nevada Commission, he then faces the temporary suspension. If Miles had that test today, he wouldn't have any suspension at all. It wouldn't even be considered a positive test. So he unfortunately, and we'll figure out how this whole thing works out. We're working with the commission to figure out, how they want to proceed with it. So I applaud the commission that they've adopted this new threshold. Like it's exact same as the UFC's process with USADA, same exact as California Athletic Commission. So I'm happy that Nevada's adopted it. It's just Miles is a victim of poor timing.
Is his win going to be overturned to a no contest?
Again, it's something we're discussing. Under the new adoption of Nevada, he wouldn't even have a positive test, so his win would not be affected at all. Because he falls under the old policy when the sample was collected. We're still discussing if it's going to be a no contest or if it's going to be fall under the current policy. So still trying to work that one out.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's always complicated stuff involving the commissions, and it's always a bummer too, especially there's always things changing too, right? And then, in this case,
and of course, I'm going to be biased. I'm always going to advocate for my athletes, and my athletes are always. I see what these guys do week in, week out, preparing for a camp. In the case of Miles, the only supplements he's taking are the ones provided by the UFC. So he has no idea, how this could possibly show up. But I really do think that this is more in line with the intent of the rules, right? Like we're trying to catch people that are cheating. We're trying to catch people that are getting a performance enhancing benefit, not simply, the tiniest of amounts that will show up in someone's system for God knows what. And I'm a skeptic. I'll be completely honest. I've always been the one that's like, I don't know if I believe Jon Jones with this whole picogram thing.
Right.
But the more and more I've talked to like Dr. Eichner, the more and more I've talked to Jeff Nowitzki, the more and more you talk to the scientists and the experts and the people that know this, they're pretty adamant that the testing capabilities are so remarkable that you can have small tainted supplements. I forget which specific one of the substances, I forget which one, but if you eat enough eggs, it can show up in your system in small trace amounts just from eating eggs, like the eggs you get at the grocery store. So the testing is really remarkable, which is great because it allows them to better catch people that are cheating. But the flip side of that is, unfortunately, they're finding very, very small amounts of stuff that really show no intention to cheat. And the policies of the commission, a lot of commissions, is so outdated that they don't know how to handle this increased ability in testing.
Interesting.
Did you say when we might get an exact idea for the overturning or any result like that? Did I miss that?
If you're talking about Miles' case specifically, we won't know until the next commission hearing. So we really wanted to wait to see what the commission did today, right? Because it has a big impact on his case, right? They could have decided not to adopt it. And circling back to Kyler Phillips, who was in the exact same situation as Miles, that was the initial discussion with the commission. And they had talked about maybe adopting this policy back in January of earlier this year. It's just they wanted to do all their due diligence and go through their processes and do things that they needed to do. So unfortunately, he didn't get the benefit of it. But since they've adopted this new policy, we'll find out the next commission hearing what the ultimate decision on Miles' case is.
Of course, of course. So I got one more question, at least before Alex, I let you take it away a little bit more. But I'm curious, Lance, I just got asked since we're on this topic here, and you having been around these things, and like you said, Dr. Eichner there, what do you make of kind of the future of no more USADA and all that, just from your point of view, your perspective, working with these guys? What do you think about all this?
Sure. I mean, the first thing I'll say is it's made my job, a little more entertaining because I've had about 20 different athletes ask me like, yo, so can I get on the sauce? No, you can't.
Please don't.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see how it shakes out, right? I've had a lot of discussions with the UFC, a lot of discussions with Jeff and his team, and they've got a great team. And they've assured us that a lot of it's going to be exactly the same, right? Samples are still going to be collected randomly the way that they currently are. It's still going to be sent to the same labs. It's going to still sent to Dr. Eichner's lab, Smyrtle in Utah. So it's going to the same labs, same bad substances, same testing. Really, I think the interesting part of it and where we're going to see how it shakes out is the adjudication, right? Because that's really what this comes down to is, are you going to punish athletes? What's going to be allowed? Right. What's not going to be allowed? Now, again, the UFC has assured us that it's going to be very similar to USADA and that they have the third party individual brought on and they feel pretty strongly about him. But I think that's really where it's going to shake out. And that's where we're going to have a better idea. Are these guys going to get cleared more for using substances to recover? Are positive tests going to be treated differently? I think it'll be very similar, but I really think the big changes is going to be in punishments. It's going to be in allowing people to use certain substances when recovering, whether that's from a surgery or whatever it may be. I think that's really where you're going to have to see where this thing kind of evolves. But yeah, it's an interesting case because there's always a question of you went from a third party to still a third party supposedly, but it's someone who's collecting a paycheck from the UFC. So right. I think how this works out is will be seen.
Yes.
But also remember, you still got the athletic commissions, right? Yeah. Every fighter's still subject to an athletic commission. Yeah. So you're still going to have Nevada that's testing people, so California that's testing people. It's out of competition tests where it's going to be kind of interesting to see how that works out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that, man. And obviously, before we let you go, gotta ask about my foul mouth, no filter pal, Sean Strickland.
Okay.
First of all, how do you like the matchup with Dricus? I guess what are your thoughts on it?
I mean, we knew Dricus was a possibility, right? He's the number one contender. There's no question that he's the number one contender. Now, we thought we'd probably end up with Chimaev. I think that was where it was trending. But Dricus has always been on the radar. Honestly, I've been looking at Dricus since he was scheduled to fight Chris Curtis, however long ago. He is very, very difficult to get a read on because you watch him and it looks like he's doing things wrong. He's not super clean. He's not super polished. But he wins and he's tough and he looks tired from the first 5 seconds of the fight, but he runs the same pace for 15 minutes, maybe 25. We'll see. So I think it's a difficult fight and more so than people give Dricus credit for. I think he's a much better fighter than people give him credit for. And I'm being one of those. I was on the Whitaker bandwagon where I didn't think that he was going to get through Bobby Knuckles, but he did with flying colors. So it's a tough fight. Not ideal location, not ideal timeline. Sean's fighting on 9 weeks, 10 weeks notice again. But Sean's a gamer. He'll fight anybody. He'll fight anybody, anytime, anywhere, as long as the money's right. What he says is he's spot on. As long as the money's right, he'll fight anybody, anywhere. So stylistically, tough fight, sneaky tough fight. Like it's not as straightforward as people might think. So we'll see how it goes.
How close was Sean to fighting Hamza, and was that the number one option, I guess, for you guys and the UFC?
Are you talking When are you talking for the most
Toronto?
recent?
Yeah. Most recently, like
Okay,
Toronto or
never even brought up in the discussion.
Mm.
I don't really know what Chimaev and his team are looking to do. But yeah, it wasn't really even an option. Maybe they're looking down the road. Maybe his wrist is or hand is really as bad as they say it is. You hear a bunch of things. But yeah, it wasn't. Again, Sean's a guy that he'll do what the UFC asks him to do when they ask him to do it. As long as everything financially makes sense for him.
perfect.
Is he more professional with you, Lance, like in terms of just conversations in general? Or I'm curious about that dynamic. No. Same old as always.
Sean. Yeah, he's exactly what you get. It's people all the time will be like, oh, he's put on an act, this, that, and the other thing. No,
Right.
it's Sean. That's exactly who he is. So, yeah,
that's all you need for entertainment, right there. Then
it's fun. I don't know who messed around and let him become a world champion.
Right? Who did that?
It's been entertaining to say the least.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on, man. Great getting to chat. Great to get some updates here, and it'll be interesting to see how everything shakes out. Just, of course, with your fighters, and then obviously the drug stuff in general. But yeah, we appreciate you coming on. First guest, so now you got this label. First guest that we've had on the show, so we appreciate you greatly, man.
No, thanks for having me, guys. I just really wanted to speak out on behalf of all these athletes that unfortunately have been put in a bad situation, and maybe their situation hasn't been properly explained to the public, in general. And I just thank you guys for letting me at least speak on it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming along, man. So
have a good one.
The rest of your day. All right, take care, Lance. All right, you guys. There we go. First guest in the books, Mr. Lance Spouty, of course, manager of many names in the game. Champs Sean Strickland, Miles Johns, obviously. I mentioned Kyler Phillips. What exactly is? I feel bad for saying this right now, Alex. But what is the company? Does he have a company name, or is it just him, like by himself?
Iridium Sports Agency.
Oh, he's with Iridium. Okay,
yeah.
All right. Didn't realize that. So yeah, it was my first time meeting him, but cool guy and a phenomenal mustache. Caught me off guard there, putting me to shame, my friend. I got to grow mine back. Don't know if the girlfriend would approve, but that's okay. So let's move along now for a big show today, but we'll try and keep it as tidy as we can with the timing. But time to slap it on in. Mania Mainline coming on up here for you guys. Alex, we got a fuck ton of things to like this week in MMA in general. This was very, very difficult for me to decide, and I still don't even think I chose the proper option. I chose the me option, but I want to hear from you first. What are you specifically injecting this week? What gets you the most excited?
I have two that I'm really looking forward to. One on UFC, one on Bellator. UFC fight. Chase Hooper versus Jordan Levitt. It's just a fun meme fight. It's just a weird one. It's like two of the nicest, most unique personalities in the fucking MMA sphere. And it can either be a very, very fun, weird, kind of wonky fight, or it could be kind of a boring fight because Jordan's wrestling is very good and he could just hold Chase down. So I'm really looking for that fight. So that one, and then obviously Patchy Mix versus Sergio Pettis, man. That fight is just fucking fantastic. Yeah, 1000%. Put the hands up. It's just tremendous, man. I think Patchy, and I've said this again. There's an argument. I think Patchy's probably the best bantamweight in the world right now. He's so good, so underrated. And he's walked through a lot of his last 4 fights are super impressive, man. I mean, the way he's won. And Sergio Pettis, everyone thought like, this dude's a UFC cast off, going in the B leagues, but he's shown up and
very good.
I think he's turned heads and really turned the tide in his career. So it's a very interesting fight. And it's for to unify the bantamweight title. So man, I cannot wait for that fight.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, we'll talk more about kind of the Bellator card here just in a second, because I mean it's it's very good, and that's why I was mostly struggling here. And I kind of went with the pick that I wanted to, not because it's not a great choice, but because I knew that you would kind of definitely touch on those ones. So get the shouts there. But I'm gonna take Sumiko Inaba and Denise Kiholtz because I think that one will be very, very fun. Flyweight division. Of course, Miss Dynamite. You want to talk about strikers from earlier, Alex Pereira with the kickboxing accomplishments. She has those plenty. And I believe you could say it's technically still the kickboxing champion in Bellator, but that whole thing kind of died a couple of years ago. But yeah, that's a great fight. Sumiko been climbing up, obviously, the ladder. Well, Denise hanging around as one of the best flyweights in the division there. Will be a fun one. They always put on fun fights, so I think together they will make for a good old show. But again, there's just, you can't really go wrong with honestly a lot of the fights this weekend. So as part of our main line, we will get in our predictions here for the main events and the kind of the big fights, because Alex, I mean, really, I think we should probably do predictions for the whole main card of the Bellator card, because those all could be main events. Like, we'll get into a segment we haven't introduced yet for you guys in a bit here, but yeah, there's a lot. So, but we'll start with obviously UFC Vegas 83. It's 80, 82, 83, 82. Okay. Which is a great main event as well. Brendan Allen versus Paul Craig. Grappler's delight, at least you will hope for. And I know Alex obviously very high on his boy. Brendan Allen gave us a good little appreciation tweet last night, I think it was. But Paul Craig looked pretty darn good in his middleweight debut too. How are we feeling about this one playing out, my friend?
I think Brent Allen smokes him. I think he'll. I don't think first round, but I think like a second round TKO. I was thinking maybe Brent Allen is gonna tap him or like go the round with him, but which he can, man. Brent Allen's jiu-jitsu is very underrated. But Paul Craig is, man, he's scary. He's scary on the ground, and like I feel like Paul's only way to victory is through his ground game. So why test it? So I think Brandon's gonna wear him down second round and TKO him.
That's actually not a bad breakdown at all. I kind of fully agree with that. I think I don't have really much more to add. Like I do think Paul Craig looked very impressive, and again against a good grappler in it was what's his name?
Andre Muniz.
Yes, that's it. I almost said Vieira. I was like, no, different Brazilian. but yeah, no, I mean, if you hate to do the MMA math, but in this fight, it kind of works out because they both, looked very good against Muniz too in kind of similar ways. But yeah, we still kind of have more to learn, obviously, about Paul at middleweight, and like Brendan Allen's just a tough guy to look good against, I think, in general, unless maybe you're Sean Strickland, but it doesn't happen very often, obviously. So yeah, I'm just gonna echo what you said there. But James, you got to tie in this. Can you do a Paul Krieg accent? That's always how I say his name, because that's how he says it.
Fantastic.
So yeah, I fancy myself a good Scottish accent, I would like to think. But all right, let's go over to the real goods, because I love all these fights except for maybe the Stott Sabatello rematch, Alex, but still we'll touch on that briefly. So let's just go down the line here as quickly as we can. But we'll start from bottom to top. Okay, we'll talk more about this card in a bit here, like I said, but it's fucking great. It's really good. Probably Bellator's last show ever, and completely snuck up on us. No talk, nothing. Your typical old lack of no promotion whatsoever. It is so sad because, like, I still am seeing like no buzz for Patchy and Pettis, like you're talking about, but easily like the best fight of the week.
Bro, Patchy, you have AJ McKee, you have Yaroslav, bro, like, and no one knows about it.
Oh my god, it's really just a big bummer. It's like, all right, just get out of here, guys. At this point, if this is how it's gonna be, so Pitbull and Shabley are opening the main card here, which My God,
Shab.
for my money, Shabli is the best lightweight in Bellator right now. Yes, he's going to win this fight. Probably finish Pitbull round 2. I think just he's cleaner. I mean, I think Pitbull, he shut me up a little bit. I thought he was done maybe earlier than he was, with his last performances and whatnot. But Shabli is just like, he's kind of like, you look at him, Tofik, and Usman. I think it's kind of similar to Gamrot, Dariush, and Sarukin at the UFC's division, right? Like those 3 guys are all just technically fucking beautiful, can pack, power, strike, grapple, all that good stuff. Maybe a little bit more strong in their striking specifically, but as opposed to UFC, so a good contrast. But
and we're not going to get Shabli versus Usman.
God damn it! yeah, he's out of the picture now. That's just not happening. But yeah, I think this should definitely be a pretty good Shabli highlight. As again, as much as I said, Pitbull proved me a little bit wrong there. It's just the guy's just clean. He's a sniper. He's very, very talented. So we agree on that one, obviously. But next one, AJ McKee versus Sydney Outlaw. Don't have much faith in Sydney Outlaw either, but if he can really employ his wrestling, which is going to be tough against another great wrestler in AJ McKee, at least initiate there and try to make it a wrestling heavy fight. He's going to have his most success. Doesn't have the greatest chin. Could see AJ knocking him out. Probably what I'd predict, actually, maybe ground and pound if he gets a good position on top, which I could see happening. Just AJ's kind of better everywhere, essentially, in this one, but should still be an entertaining fight while it lasts. AJ McKee for me. How do you feel?
Man, I mean, Sydney really surprised me in his last fight against Islam Mamedov, man. He looked great. He's at Killcliff FC now. He left American Top Team. But I think AJ McKee should get through him. Just that I like what you said about the chin issues. That's he's been vulnerable to knockout, and AJ McKee has that strike hand knockout. So.
For sure. So then we have the big bantamweight rivalry rematch. 3 rounds this time, Stotts versus Sabatello. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic to change things up. I mean, Alex, I didn't think the first fight was. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the most entertaining fight ever. It was very competitive. Obviously, we'll remember the crazy Doug Crosby insanity scorecards in that one. Speaking of shitty scorecards earlier, that was, oh boy. I honestly think this fight's probably going to look pretty much the same, except just 3 rounds. So in that regard, it's like a real toss-up for me. We've seen Sabatello, got choked out in his last fight. So I don't think that says very much, but he hasn't looked a whole lot different since then. And then as for Stotts, obviously he got melted, by the knee. So, I mean, maybe there'll be more fire for both of them needing a win this time. Like that dynamic's a little different, but for the most part, maybe just a more higher pace version of their first fight, which would be more fun. But I think I'm still going to lean Stotts ever so slightly. It's close though. These guys are just a close matchup.
Yeah, I'm kind of echoing what I think it's going to be the exact same fight, except I'm leaning Sabatello. I think his wrestling is just going to be, lay and pray for 3 rounds.
Yep, we shall see. But then we get to the co-main event, which we've already given plenty of love to. Patchy Mix versus Sergio Pettis. Man, it's like this kind of reminds me of, in a way, Volk versus Holloway, where you can tell, like when Volk was coming up for the first fight, right? You could tell this guy's clearly super duper talented, could be champion, all these things, but he's still getting counted out. Like I was still counting him out all the way, probably up until that fight. And then after that, I was like, all right, guys, pretty damn good. I got to stop doing this. I think even till maybe the Ortega fight, I was still not being fully confident in him. I'm feeling a little bit that way, despite me also agreeing with you and thinking Patchy he very well talent-wise could be the best bantamweight on the planet right this moment. But man, I don't know. I doubt both of them. Like I thought Pitbull could have definitely beat Pettis going into that fight last time, despite the weight stuff and whatnot. But there are levels to the speed game, as that one fully showed. But Patchy's a fucking big ass bantamweight too, and the way that he moves and strikes and can get submissions, he's just dangerous everywhere. And I think that's the big thing for him is the danger factor. I mean, we saw him backpack Kyoji pretty much for that whole fight. Like Pettis will need, I think, to be a whole lot more defensively sound than in the reverse. And so I think I'm flipping myself there in my mind as I'm talking about it, but I do think Patchy will get it done. But it's a very tricky one, and it's easy to count both guys out against each other, I think, which is why it's fucking so good to me. But Patchy's got that momentum. He's killing guys out there. I think he'll probably pull off something crazy again. But I think I'm gonna ride with him. I'm assuming you are too.
Yeah, I think Patchy taps him in the second round. I think he finishes him quick. Maybe, yeah, I'm high on Patchy, bro. And you know, I think I mean Sergio could make this like a very dirty technical fight, like a technically dirty fight, if that makes sense. But I just think, man,
I just can't see him finishing is also a problem.
Right. Yeah, 1000%. And I just don't see him finishing Patchy, and I don't think he's going to be able to take Patchy 5 rounds. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, that's the big X factor for sure. And then the main event, which we haven't even said nothing about yet, Yaroslav Amosov, one of the best middle welterweights on the planet, undefeated, taking on Jason Jackson. What, the ass kicking machine? That's the nickname right there. You love that one. So, I honestly think that this has potential to be a very, very good fight, especially on the feet. But of course, Amosov can mix in his wrestling beautifully as he does. He's going to be kind of setting himself apart there. And I mean, the guy is nearly 30-0 for a reason. So I think the champ will keep on keeping on. Looked just incredible in his last fight, returning after the war. So I think he will keep on keeping on. But Jason Jackson does have very legit power, so that'll be something to watch out for. But I'm looking forward to it. But I think we'll get Ant Still in that one.
I feel like this could be a boring fight. I feel like I mean, both guys have really good wrestling, but I think Yaroslav is the better wrestler, obviously. And I think he's just gonna hold Jason down for 5 rounds. To be honest with you.
All right. Well, I hope that doesn't happen, but for the sake of entertainment. But I appreciate the honesty.
Bellator main events always fucking just think.
That's a great point, actually. That's a great point. But all right, guys, that concludes the Mania Mainline. A whole lot to like this weekend, so I had to get in as much as we could. As we move along now to the matchup roundup, we'll just breeze on through it as best as we can. Of course, we have a decent amount here, but yeah, we will just go on through as we do. So starting things off, Alex, late change up to the card this weekend. So going down this Saturday, Christian Leroy Duncan is now facing Dennis Tulilin. Always struggle with that last name. UFC Vegas 82 on Saturday, like I said. I'm happy to see Christian Leroy Duncan back. Of course, he had some good hype on him. And then, yeah, the change up here, a little interesting. Curious to see how he rebounds. I fully agree with that, though, for sure. So let's move along to next week. We have a fight that also was a change up over in the PFL. Kayla Harrison is now taking on Aspen Ladd at the 2023 PFL Championship. I know Alex prefers this one because he's not a Julia Budd fan, but he's probably not still too excited for it. I'm not so much either. I think 4 for me, but it's fine. Are you lower than that?
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go like a 4.5 just because I'm happy Kayla's still fighting.
Okay,
I don't give a fuck.
I know it's so weird, like without the stakes attached, but that's just where we're at. So, and then also going down on that same night, not in the PFL, over in ACA 169, Alex Askar Askarov is back. He's out of retirement. Right, that's what he said he was doing, but not in the UFC anymore. So that's a bummer as he takes on Alan Gomez, who I'm not quite sure who that is. But Askar Askarov, always a fun guy for me. So he himself will get 6 for the matchup alone. I hope he does well and gets back to the UFC, honestly. So interesting development.
7. Yeah, it's a 7 for me. No, he didn't officially retire. He just wanted out of his UFC contract because he wasn't getting booked.
Right. Okay, well, guess we'll see what the future holds for him, though. But yeah, should be. It's always fun times with Askarov. I really like watching him fight. Then we move on to UFC Shanghai, December 9th. We got Song Kanon taking on Kevin Juset. 3. It's fine. I mean, that's not a fine score, but I don't really care for it. It's a fight. 3 for me.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Kevin again. So I'm going like a 4, 5. I'm gonna go 5. Fuck it.
All right. Then we move along to the big New Year's Eve show, Rising 45. We got 2 fights announced, and we'll start with the big boys, the heavyweights. Tsuyoshi Sudario feels like he's on almost every single Rising card at this point, the most active heavyweight in the promotion easily as he takes on Mikhail Ueda. I mean, Sudario fights are always typically pretty fun, whether he's getting finished or finishing. So just for him alone, he just matches up well with guys who was supposed to fight Todd Duffy at the last one, but things fell apart. Obviously, now Duffy's in BKFC. It's a big old thing. But Sudario, he's always going to get a 5 at the minimum from me. So that's what I'll give him there.
I love watching him. That's going to be a solid 7.
Yeah, I know I'm probably being a little bit actually harsh there. So then moving along, though, to Shinobu Ota, Olympic wrestling, I think silver medalist. He is back in action at bantamweight, welcoming Rusei Ashizawa, one of the better kickboxers over in Japan at the weight class in the recent years, to MMA. So they are really not doing him stylistic favors for his debut, but Ota's striking has gotten better in his 7 fights so far. Record a little bit spotty, almost 500, but he's still very good and obviously going to be quite the test for Ashizawa. And in the reverse, so this is a complete striker versus grappler matchup. Ashizawa, if you're familiar with him at all, Alex, he's one of the craziest personalities in Japan. He said some very insane things when I talked to him on Broad Horizon. If you guys want to go check that out on the channel, shameless plug. He is a fucking character, has face tattoos, all that good stuff. And it's a very fun fighter to watch. Very intriguing. If he wins, that's a big deal for, potential where he can go. They're not starting him off too easily. So this is a 7 for me, just in terms of it's very classic striker grappler, obviously.
Yeah, I am ecstatic to watch this guy fight Ashizawa. So I'm gonna go 8.
All right, love it. And mentioned him earlier, but Magomed Ankalaev, they are doing the rematch. Johnny Walker, part 2, UFC Vegas 83, January 13th. I mean, I guess it's the move. It kind of had to be. I hoped it would have been a little bit sooner, like when we were talking about after it happened. But fine. It's a 7 for me. Still very interesting. We didn't really see too much out of the first one, obviously, so I still like it. I just want to move past it. So 7, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, move it to a main card fight, to an Apex main event, and it's just like a.
Is it main event now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just main event, 5 rounds. I mean, both of their main events in the Apex were shitty. So I just don't really care about this fight anymore, to be honest. So I'm like, that's like a 4 for me, to be honest.
All right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I didn't realize the main event part. That kind of hurts it a little bit. But another rematch, though, you guys, from a non-ending of sorts, a bit longer ago was this first one. But UFC 297, January 20th, gets a big, though, contender matchup at light heavyweight. Former champion Blachowicz is rematching returning Alexander Rakic, who he beat the last time they fought. The last time Rakic fought was that March last year when he tore his ACL. So he's coming right back to the same guy, which makes sense. No problems there. First fight was getting pretty interesting until it ended. So I'm pretty intrigued, especially to see how Rakic comes back after everything. I think this is a solid 7 for me. There's a lot of little things about it that I like. So how do you feel?
7.
Yeah. All righty. Then we move on to, we got a surprise one also added to that very same card during the UFC 295 broadcast. Dominic Reyes' last hope, Alex, his saving grace needs to be a win over Carlos Ulberg. Not so sure that can even happen at this point, but I'm glad to see they're dropping him down outside the top 15 at least. So for that, I mean, at this point, it's probably an 8. This is pretty good matchmaking, I think. Probably not going to be a finish. Dominic Reyes got to. It's like the meme. Do something.
Yeah. Carlos Ulberg called for this fight after his win, and so he got it. I think Dominic Reyes has a really good chance to beat Ulberg. It just depends on like how done is he,
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna like 8. I like it. I like it
Alright.
too.
Yeah. I think it is a pretty good and fair one. All right, then we move along to our last two here, both at the UFC Fight Night event, February 3rd. No idea where that one is yet, unless you have any indications, my friend.
It's looking like it's gonna be an Apex card.
Okay. All right. So in Vegas there for February 3rd. But in the flyweight division, Yulia Stoliarenko is back again against Luana Carolina. I don't ever really have too much interest in Carolina. Stoliarenko, at least, like, she's getting beat up good or, pulling off a submission. So she's kind of fun in that regard. But this matchup's kind of a 4 for me. Don't care too much about it.
It's gonna be a solid 2.
All right, it's solid 2. But you know what is in it too? And a great way to close out our matchup roundup today is the real flyweight attraction here. Viviane Araújo is the first top 10 opponent for Natalia Silva. Well, what, KGB, was she top 10 still when they fought? Either way, she's progressing up the ladder. As you guys know, if you know me, Natalia Silva, one of my favorite fighters right now. I love this girl. I think she's going to be hanging around the top for a long time with the Blanchfields, the Furos, all those people. I love this one, Alex. I think this is the fight. One of the fights I was saying should have been next for her. So this is like perfect to me. I think it's a 10.
Yeah, so I like to step up in competition for Silva, and yeah, fucking 9 for me.
Yes, can't go wrong with Natty Ice, as we say around these parts. But all right, let's move it along now to Spotlightville. Going to shine some love on some of those who deserve it. Alex, who do you want to give the spotlight to this week?
So I actually spotlighted him on my prospect of the month like 3 months ago. So I'm gonna go back to it. He's fighting at Hex Fight Series 28 in Australia. Joe Luciano. He's fighting for the Hex Welterweight Championship. I don't know why he's not in the UFC by now. He's probably one of the best Australian prospects out there at the moment. If he wins, it'd be kind of a crime if he's not in the UFC after he wins, but who knows?
Like Paul Hughes.
The UFC, the UFC can be very stubborn at times, or they might be like, well, yeah, let's just use him from the Contender Series next year, but whatever. So,
right.
Joe Luciano. If you don't know about him, better check up on him because he's going to be good when he gets to the UFC.
All right. Very nice. Very nice. And all right, out of the ladies this week, honestly, I wouldn't say, I don't know. It's kind of thin in prospects specifically. Like, the whole point of the Spotlightville, you guys, is to highlight the prospects. And I didn't feel comfortable with really doing any ones that would maybe qualify with that because they aren't the best, maybe necessarily. But I'm going to go back to, because I'm saying this right now because Sumiko Inaba, I don't think is a prospect anymore, especially in Bellator. She's one of the very best in there, but I got to give love to her. She is so goddamn exciting, so fun to watch. She's progressed in such a great pace. 6-0 still, is completely undefeated. A great finisher, whether it's on the ground or with strikes, can do it all. Just a very entertaining, fun fighter to watch. And, against Denise Kiholtz here, like I said, after getting her biggest win over Vita Ortega. If Bellator sticks around, she would be a champion one day. Even if it doesn't, UFC would be fucking dumb not to pick her up as soon as they possibly can. Or even, the PFL stuff. She will be a star for them or UFC. I don't care. Like, she has that complete vibe in and out of the cage with her. Extremely likable personality. Extremely fun fighter to watch. Like, she's as full package as you could ask for, especially for a Hawaiian fighter. Like, if anybody else decides to ever go to Hawaii, there you go. But she's like one of those you don't want to let get away type of fighters. So Sumiko Inaba, she gets the spotlight this week, even though I don't think she's a prospect anymore. So there is that. As we depart Spotlightville and we introduce not a new segment to the public, because we've had this waiting in the wings for a moment to where it made sense. But it's time, Alex. It's time for the good old turf war, as we're going head to head with Bellator and UFC this week. Not on the same day, but the same weekend. Bellator 301 versus UFC Vegas 82. I don't think this one's really that close, Alex. I think Bellator 301 kind of washes UFC Vegas 82 out of the waters. And the whole point and the fun excitement for this segment was because typically, if you look at it on the head-to-head dates with Bellator and UFC, and I did a study on this a couple of years ago, and I doubt it's changed very much because I didn't keep it up to date, but Bellators that go head-to-head are usually always better than UFC. Case is definitely here in this one. Like, I don't think it's very close.
100%. Yeah, no. Bellator, I mean, even like you can even argue like Bellator's prelims are better than most of the UFC as well. So
Yeah, we got Archie
Yeah.
Colgan back. Kerry Taylor Melendez is returning. Tyrell Fortune versus Marcelo Golm. Cody Laws, we mentioned a couple weeks ago when he got it booked. Kurmagomedov, Matos versus Palencia. Mike Hamilton, Wild. Yeah, I mean, like, it's gonna be good. If it, you couldn't ask for a better send off than 300, you could say. But here we are.
Yeah.
Hopefully it feels a little bit better, but I doubt they will do that because that's just how Bellator goes. But all right, yeah, that was an easy one to start off with our first turf war, but that's okay, because we're all waiting to get to everybody's favorite part of the show. I know it's mine, the Dralex Movie Club. And I got to adjust this real quick, Alex, because I think it's actually just good to have it in here. But spoilers for those of you who maybe, let's say somebody tunes in midway through. So the Dralex Movie Club will involve spoilers because I got to talk about the stuff in detail, in depth. But last week, Alex gave me Sicario from 2015, and I gave Alex A Scanner Darkly 2006. Very, very excited to hear what you thought about that one, my man. I watched Sicario last night. I'll start off with you. What did you think? What did you think of Richard Linklater's Rotoscope extravaganza?
Yeah, so it was a unique idea, very cool ideas, but I think I'm gonna forget about it in the next month. It just kind of lost me throughout. Like, I liked the idea. I thought the story was was very cool. It just was like it just kind of like petered out for some reason. And I understand and I think like I did like the message about like the drug addiction and the undercover cops getting addicted and stuff. It was just it just, I don't know. It just did not hit me like I thought it would. I do gotta say Keanu Reeves was awesome in it. I have to give a big shout out to Roy Cochrane as the fucking dude. His just facial features throughout. It's just like, dude. And then I really like the scene where it was Woody Harrelson, Keanu, and the other dude, and Roy, and they were just sitting in the bedroom, and they both like just turn into bugs. It was just so good. So yeah, it just it's very forgetful. Obviously I'm not going to forget it because of how it looked visually and like stuff, but I just like the story was just like but I didn't and from what I've seen and read, it's like the most like for an adaptation for the Philip K. Dick, it's very like for kind of like it's solid.
Oh, okay. Yeah, didn't know that, but I mean, what did you think of Robert Downey Jr. though? Because like he was my favorite part of the movie.
He was solid. I mean, you could argue other than Iron Man and maybe like Zodiac, it was one of his best roles. Yeah, he was RDJ to the fucking max. Like it's just funny. It was so good. It was just he was incredible. I think the performances outweighed.
Yes, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a big point too. Of like as it went on, it kind of felt like it lost itself. But like the first half, very entertaining, very good.
Yeah. I mean, and like the twist where it was Renata going in, and it was actually her that was talking, and it
Yeah.
was Keanu he's been addicted, and they're saying into the clinic, like, that was cool, like that, like kind of got me back, but like it wasn't enough to like make me like, I like that. So I'm gonna give it like a 2.5 out of 5.
All right. All right. Yeah, I know. I really enjoyed I did watch the movie the first 2 times I watched it. I was pretty high. So that made it a lot better. But then I have watched it sober since then. But yeah, it's a trippy one when you do that. Trust me. Feels like you're a part of it. But yeah, I really enjoyed that movie. I like a lot of the points you bring up there. But all right. So Sicario, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this one here. Watched last night, as I said. I'm trying to think of something I would sum it up with. Because it was it was good. And I knew it was good. Like I said, I think last week, it's one of those you hear that like people will say like it's just objectively, a very good movie. And I've been super fascinated too, like within the past couple months, just by Mexico as a country and kind of like the history of it. So this was really fun for me to kind of just anything involving it. So like, of course, the cartel related things and whatnot is like fascinating. And I think the perspective of Kate throughout the movie, it's like everybody, and going through it is pretty fucking scary and kind of shitty and traumatic and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it was fascinating to watch things unfold in that regard, which really, of course, makes the whole movie. But for me, some of the notes I put down, I wanted to highlight, I think, man, some of the ways that the movie was shot were phenomenal. Specifically, the border shot of them entering through with like all the cars and whatnot, and then you see the other side of everybody leaving. Like that was a very metaphorical picture. I was like, oh man. And the build up to that, as we'll get into here, the highway scene was incredible. Man, what an absolute moment of a scene that just puts you in the car with her, and like
Terrifying.
it was, my God, like, because yeah, I knew as soon as I saw a guy with face tattoos, like I know where this is going, but I'm still so scared. It's like,
Yeah.
it was just masterfully crafted, that scene, up until that moment, and then of course, just again going along with the ride of her confusion and being like, "What the fuck is going? What are we doing, guys?" Like, and being there for it. It was absolutely perfect, and I mean that was just the whole thing about it. Like I said, her frustration building, as she's left in the dark the whole time. And then it gets to that point where, her and I forget the other guy's name, but Daniel Kaluuya, who I didn't realize was in the movie. He was great, as he usually is. Then be like, all right, can you tell us what's going on? And then, they give their answers that are what they are. Josh Brolin, I mean, the complete like ruthlessness and lack of compassion from his character was like mint Josh Brolin as well. Like, just kind of giggly and snarky about every single goddamn thing. Like nothing serious in a very serious situation, like I think that I would say like maybe he was the most bad guy out of the bad guys, which might be kind of crazy to say. I don't know, but it's just like,
Good.
damn, this guy just not feeling that, from him. And there was a quote. I loved this quote here, from Benicio del Toro, where he was saying, to find was I think it was Manuel, it was who he was talking about, was to find him would be like finding a vaccine. I was like, that's a really good quote. I like that. It's like, very well written. Alvin here, I wanted to highlight. He said, he left Sicario, Benicio del Toro's scene where he eliminates Al Caron's wife was beautifully acted by both sides. Yeah, that was excellent as well. Just the reactions, I think, were very well acted scene. Benicio, I mean, he was definitely dark, intense individual in that one.
Epic, his epic performance in that. He's just, God damn, it just shows just how good he is.
Yeah, Very good stuff. Alan says the terror and fear from the children. Very true. As a mother concerns for her children, and the father understanding his fate, and Del Toro acting where he shows his anger and ambition to take revenge for his. Yeah, it was everything. You're getting all those vibes from everybody. So right spot on there, Alvin. He says we see acts of horror from the movie, and it inspires us as human beings to treat each other like human beings, and shows that every life is important, should be treated and valued. Yeah, very, very true. But Mark, essentially, what we're getting at, Sicario is definitely worth checking out. Very good. It's one of those kind of. It felt like a bit of a. I don't know. I don't want to call it a slow burn in a way because it wasn't, but it builds in this more subtle way, I think, because it starts off very intense with it's kind of that opening scene that leads to everything else, but yeah, no, it's a very intriguing one for sure, and I would recommend it. And I wanted to point this out though real quick, Alex, because I think I missed something, but when she was you know the attack scene where she's getting choked in the apartment, and she sees the bracelet on the table, I missed the connection there. Do you remember what that was? Like that triggered her to be like, "Oh fuck, this guy's gonna try and kill me or some shit." And if Alvin, if you remember or whatnot, but I was just like, oh, what is the thing behind this? I don't
I know
remember.
the
But
answer. I know the answer. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
yeah, that was the trigger, like to let her know, like, oh boy, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, I think it connected something back to the beginning of the movie or something. So like it just connects to like oh fuck, he's coming for me.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of like the only thing where I was like, that's obviously not a knock because I just missed something, but I was like, all right, I'm sure that's a good tie-in. so yeah, Sicario, definitely a good one. If we're gonna do the rating system here again, I think a solid 8. I want to rewatch it again just for reasons like that. I think it'll probably be better. I think it will definitely be one better on a rewatch, but very good, incredible performances again.
It's the same band that the cartel used to bundle the money.
Oh, there we go.
And then also I just wanted to, so the director is Denis Villeneuve, one of the best directors out working right now, written by Taylor Sheridan, who I mean is just on top of the world right now. So
yeah. Yes, good shouts indeed. And yes, Alvin, there you go. Thank you, sir. Ted was working with the cartel while they were in the apartment. Yeah. Good stuff indeed. So, all right, let's move along now. So here's the thing, Alex. We can do something here. All right. Because this is an idea that came to me last night because I saw that this was there. We can do this. I'm assuming there's a new movie that came out, and I'm assuming you maybe haven't seen it yet because it just came out. And I'm going to suggest that we watch the same one together for the first time. Or if you have whatever one you have, we can do it. Do you want to know what movie I'm thinking of first?
Is it The Killer?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Did you watch it already?
Yeah. No, I haven't.
Okay.
I've actually been waiting for my wife to sit down and watch it with me.
All right. So we can do that one together. I think will be a fun one.
Yeah.
or
That's cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
let's
right.
do
We'll
it.
do that because love Michael Fassbender. If you guys don't know about this one, Hitman movie just came out on Netflix, but is also in theaters, I believe. So kind of got to take my pick which way I want to watch it. But I fucking love Michael Fassbender. When I first saw the trailer for this one, I was like, I got to see that. So The Killer 2023 just came out this past Friday. You guys can watch along with us. If you've seen it already, let us know how it was. But we'll go with that one. Double feature this time. So save whatever you had for next week.
Sure.
So there we go, you guys. That'll close up the Dralex Movie Club. And Alvin's already on top of it. He saw it yesterday. Love to hear it, my man. He says it's good. So all right, that gives us something to look very much forward to. And it'll be cool to see kind of how on the same page we are with it. But all right, so let's close things out now with Q&A. What were you scoping out there?
Oh no, I was looking at a comment from Richard Burmaster, my boy Rich.
Okay. All right. So you guys wrap it up with the Q&A. Like I said, here, got a couple from you. Appreciate it. For a bit of a longer show today. That's all right. Thank you again to Lance for joining us earlier. Got Combat Sports Today asked earlier, where do you guys rank Yaroslav Amosov among the UFC top 15? Great question. I will tell you right now, I still do my own personal rankings just in a spreadsheet. Yaroslav is my number 2 in the world. So by default, he'd be number 2 in the UFC. How about you?
He's definitely top 5. Yeah, he's top 5. I can't really order him because it'd be tough. But man, I would love to see him fight a Bilal Muhammad, a Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns. I think Shavkat is the next champion, just waiting. So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, for sure. And hey, who knows what'll happen next year? But he's definitely one of the best champs in Bellator. As Mark Collard says, I thought Bellator was supposed to continue as a separate promotion for a few more years, according to the rumors of the sale to PFL. Did something change? Well, you kind of answered your question a little bit there, Mark. Rumor, nothing. From what we know and is out there and floating around. Okay, I'm just going to say from my side about what I know, but I've not seen anything like that. It's still very gray, aside from the fact that this is pretty much happening. Just a matter of when and sorting things out. But in terms of them continuing as a promotion, no idea about that. So I think it's still mostly a wait and see, Mark, but obviously indications with Bellator having nothing past this weekend is a pretty good sign of where things are headed. So yeah. Ghost Phantom here says, controversial question time. All right. How do you not make Ali Abdelaziz angry? James Lynch barely did anything and he's blacklisted and treated badly. How do you not do that? Well, I think it's different for everybody, Ghost. I mean, James has told his story a whole bunch, so I don't really need to go into it if you don't know it, but you can go find something on his channel for sure. Just I don't know if I know how to answer this because things are always unique, different situations, Alex. But do you have anything to add? I guess I'm not close with Ollie or anything.
I mean, how do you not make? I mean, don't talk. I guess don't talk bad about his fighters in any way. Probably. I mean, that
helps. That always helps. Yes.
Like try not to be critical, and I'm sure that'll be.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy solution, actually. Mark Collard saying, do you think Jared Gordon deserved a performance bonus? I wanted to actually throw this one in earlier, so my bad. But especially considering the KO and his recent struggles with controversial decisions. So yeah, Alex pretty much already said that, and yeah, I agree. I mean, it was great. That was my underrated moment. So yeah, we agree with you there, Mark, for sure. James asks, are you two fans of Paul Craig's fighting style? Getting beat up and then submitting his opponents or just getting beat up. It's like Gerald Meerschaert, but higher percentage of him getting a sub. Oh, I would be curious to know the actual stats on that. But I mean, I like watching Paul Craig fight. I don't know if I'm like a big fan of that kind of the way that his fights, like, it's not a healthy or good way to fight. It just kind of happens. I think I'm sure he doesn't like it either. But yeah, I enjoy Paul Craig fights for the most part, but I mean, again, not a smart strategy if that's what he's going for.
Yeah, he's fun to watch for the most part. He kind of is must-watch television just because like he gets finished or he finishes you, and has a 100% finish rate. He's only been to a draw one, like he's only been to the judges' scorecard one time, and that was a draw with Shogun. But other than that, he gets finished or he finishes you. So
yeah, exactly. Same thing for Meerschaert. So I think that's a pretty solid comparison, actually. Alvin says, will you gentlemen have more guests on the show? So yeah, we will definitely have more guests down the line. A part of when we were coming up with this was that was going to be a weekly thing, and who knows, maybe we'll get to that at some point, but still kind of figuring out our time management is kind of the big thing here. But guests are definitely a part of, have always been a part of the plans, Alvin. So kicking things off with Lance today. But Rio has arrived earlier on, says, what's good? Yes, thank you for showing up. Finally found the show. I said from the WMA Today days that Dern wasn't getting better. Drake, that statement seems to have aged well. Why do people still make excuses for her? I feel like they haven't been after this loss, Alex.
It's like, it's tough. Like, it's because she's only 30, right? So she's still very young.
Yeah.
And like the potential to get like, her jiu-jitsu is such a elite part of the game where she gets anyone down, like it's tough,
Yeah.
right? So like it's just she can't figure out how to be Damian Maya, right? Like that's the thing. Like she can't figure out how to get you to the cage, do that trip down, like trip leg. You know, it's like I think she needs to take like a year off, go to Fight Ready, go to AKA, go to Team Elevation,
Settle
go somewhere
somewhere.
with really good wrestling coach and get that aspect down. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
obviously like her defense, like obviously she needs help with her defense, but I feel like that is like it's almost like almost an everyday thing in sparring where like you work on that. Wrestling is not something that you just fucking learn in 3
No.
months, like one training camp, right? Like, and the thing is, like, she's so good at grappling that she has an aspect to it already there. Like, she's has to actually do the wrestling. So I think like why people like are still thinking like, you know, it's because she's young. And I think like that I don't know if the ceiling's there or not, but like there's something there. It's just she needs to put it all together. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think he summed that up very well. And he does add on, she was training with Henry and bragging about how good her distance control was. Doesn't that back up my statement that she's uncoachable? Well, I mean, so that's kind of what I said earlier. I don't know if necessarily that she's uncoachable, and say I'm making an excuse, sure. But, she has been having a lot of fluctuation, with Perillo going out, and then before she was at the lab, right? Like she's gone through a good amount of places the past so many years, not in the sense of like cross training, right? Of actually having a primary place. So I don't know. I don't feel like I'm ready to say that, but what do you think, Alex? Is she uncoachable? Just can't do it?
I mean, Richard's saying something in the comments that's it's completely right. Like she stays at a gym at like 2 years, right? And like she needs
Yeah.
to be like, and I understand like she needs to stay at a gym and like really get that aspect, get the training partners. Cause like even at Ruka, like she had Tabitha Ricci come in, like
Yeah.
she was training with dudes the entire time. Like she needs to really find a home. And until she does that, she's gonna be a strawweight gatekeeper. Like
Yeah, and this is a pretty fair point by Rio too. I mean, Henry trained Whaley in one camp, and we saw the result of that compared to hers. Yeah, it's a very, very good point.
but I mean, still, like even in her media day interview, like she was saying that like she just barely found out about range. Like, bro, like you've been in the UFC for fucking 5 years and you're barely learning about how to
That's
keep
true.
your range.
That's
Like,
true.
what or what?
What are we doing? Yeah, that's a good point. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what she does next for sure. But all right, this is an absolutely perfect way to close us out here, Alex, for today. But why is your beard so beautiful, my man? It's looking good.
Yeah, I mean, I got it shaped a couple weeks ago. It was very very big, but
Yeah.
I think during the 3 week break after Christmas, I think I'm gonna shave it all off and let it grow back healthy.
Ooh, all right, a clean start. I look forward to that. Babyface Alex coming back.
And speaking of Rich, I did want to, I spotlighted Cameron Smotherman versus Mondo Gutierrez last week about for the Fury main event.
Mhm.
Man, Mondo was beating Cam for 3 rounds basically. Just had Cam was down 2 rounds. He was getting wrestle fucked for 2 rounds. Cam comes back, hurts Mondo, and then knocks him out with the flying knee. So it was just a phenomenal just comeback, and told you to spotlight it. If you didn't watch it, shame on you.
Shame. No good. So on that note, you guys, that will wrap up episode 6 of Sound and Pound here, November 14th, 2022. We hope you had a good old time. Don't forget, follow MMA.com, follow your MMA needs on all the social platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. You can follow us at Alex Behunin and at DrakeWigs_ on the very same ones. Alex, any shameless plugs, any specific things you want to let the people know about this week?
Just my random tidbits. I think I talked with Mike Perry last week, so I'm gonna have like a little something like a little interview clip coming out with that. But other than that, I will be at UFC Vegas 82, so keep it locked for all the media day stuff, post-fight stuff, and yeah.
All right, there you go, you guys. And yeah, I spoke to Kayla Harrison right after she got the change up last week. So that is out now on the channel, of course. Check that out. Dustin Poirier recently as well. And we forgot to discuss this before we went on air, Alex, but we got to figure out next week whether we're doing a Monday show or if you want to go solo. So I will be flying on Tuesday to DC for the PFL Championship, you guys. So we will sort that out, but either way, there will be something happening here with the show. But we appreciate you tuning in as always. So until then, we will see you when we see you guys, and have all the good contents for you in the coming weeks. And yeah, until then, stay safe and stay sane, everybody.
Peace.